If you were dealing with a pathological narcissist, and you know that you're also dealing with someone that is highly entitled, and entitlement in the context of pathological narcissists refers to the pervasive and exaggerated belief that they are inherently deserving of special treatment, admiration, and attention without necessarily having earned it, so without merit. This sense of entitlement is one of the key traits of narcissistic personality disorder and contributes to various problematic behaviors. In today's video, I'm going to point out 6 ways in which you can point out a pathological narcissist and their entitlement. So number 1 is their need for special treatment and the expectation of special favors. So narcissists often expect to be treated differently from others. They may demand preferential treatment and feel outraged or offended when their expectations are not met. Narcissists might expect others to go out of their way to fulfill their requests, even if these requests are unreasonable or burdensome. They may feel indignant when others don't meet these expectations. So understand that this behavior comes from people that are stuck in their lower ego development. So oftentimes on the channel, you'll hear me state that pathological narcissists are people that are rooted in their shame and they are unable to move past their pride. So we could call this the lower ego. We could call this victim abuser consciousness, and we could also call this the first, second, and third dimension. So you'll hear me state often that pathological narcissists are stuck in the third dimension. So understand that when someone is stuck in that lower ego, they are in a state where their needs have to be met by the outside world, because you're dealing with someone that actually dissociated from their true selves, their true spirits in childhood, and instead they developed a false self, that which we call the ego or the mask. And the ego needs your attention. The ego needs special treatment. And you have to boost the ego. And this is why they expect special favors from other people, even if they have not earned it. Again, you have to satiate the ego and understand that the ego can never be truly fed. This is why you have to keep boosting their ego and boosting their ego and boosting their ego. The ego has the insatiable desire of needing to be fed. And this is because we are not meant to rely on our ego. We are meant to rely on spirit, because spirit is who we are at our core. But when you're dealing with pathological narcissists, you're dealing with someone that is actually programmed backwards. Number 2, admiration and recognition. Pathological narcissists crave constant admiration and validation. They believe they deserve admiration simply for existing, and may become upset or hostile if others don't provide the level of praise they think they deserve. Again, you need to boost the narcissist's ego. So because they are based in shame, and shame is an emotion that is directed at the self, so shame essentially is linked to one's self-esteem. And when it comes to pathological narcissists have pathologically low self-esteem. Self-esteem so low that they would probably have to look up to see it, meaning that it is little to non-existent. They are 95% ego and like 5% spirit. Again, you must boost their ego. So because their spirit, their true self, is at about 5%, then you're dealing with someone with very low self-esteem. And understand that self-esteem must come from the self. But again, these individuals dissociated from their true selves in childhood. So because they are predominantly their ego, because they are 95% ego, then they're going to require excessive amounts of attention, admiration, validation, and your reflection. So if you take a look at the diagnostic characteristics for narcissistic personality disorder, that which you can find in the DSM, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for Mental Illnesses, which is governed by the APA, you will see where their behavior really circles around these three main traits. And number one is their grandiosity. This is their false sense of superiority. Secondly, it is their need for attention and admiration. And thirdly, it is their empathy impairment. All of this is born out of shame. It is born out of low self-esteem. So clinicians need 5 or more of the traits that you see listed in order to diagnose someone with NPD. But understand that if you are dealing with someone with even 1 or 2 of these traits, they are going to be a very dysfunctional individual, because pathological narcissism, narcissistic personality disorder, which also overlaps with antisocial personality disorder, that which you may commonly call sociopathy or psychopathy, is the result of a disconnection with the self, the disconnection with the true self, the true spirit, the true governor, the true captain of the ship. So because they are unable to esteem themselves, then they must get other esteem. This esteem must come from other people. It must come from the outside. And this is why they need sources of supply. So they need you to supply them with admiration, attention, validation, and recognition. So again, if the solution cannot come from inside the house, it must come from outside the house. And this is why a pathological narcissist must drain you, because they operate just like parasites, just like ticks, fleas, mosquitoes, etc. And every day a mosquito wakes up, they need to find a host. They need to find supply. They need to find narcissistic supply. Third, exploitation of others. So due to their sense of entitlement, narcissists may exploit or manipulate others to meet their needs. They might take advantage of people without feeling guilty, because they believe they deserve whatever they can get. Again, this is their pathological entitlement. It is entitlement on steroids. They are entitled to things. They believe they are entitled to things without having earned it. So this means that they will cross your boundaries to get what they want. For example, in an intimate relationship setting, you'll often see where narcissists will triangulate you with another supply. And this again is so that they can get attention. So they will exploit others to get their needs met. And this is what you get from someone with their consciousness that is stuck in victim abuser consciousness, because they are stuck in the third dimension. This means that they do not have access to courage, they do not have access to love, they do not have access to empathy, they do not have access to peace, and so on. Pathological narcissists have access to emotions that are between shame and pride. And this is what we call negative emotions, meaning that pride, dysfunctional pride, is the most positive emotion that a pathological narcissist can feel. And this again is dysfunctional pride. It is their grandiosity. It is their false sense of superiority. So they believe that they are perfect. They don't think that anything is wrong with their behavior. And because they do not think that anything is wrong with their behavior, then they won't change. And pride cometh before the fall, so they fall right back down to shame. So you're dealing with someone that is in a shame pride cycle, and they have been in this shame pride cycle long before you came into the picture. So I also want you to know that the narcissist behavior has nothing to do with you. This is just how they operate. This is how their minds work. This is how their emotions work. This is how their willpower works, because they are very impulsive and compulsive. This is their level of consciousness. And understand that there are 8 billion people on this planet. That is B, bravo. There are 8 billion people on this planet, and we all do not operate at the same level of consciousness. If you have access to love and empathy and joy and peace, well, there are people that do not have access to love and empathy and joy and peace, and the pathological narcissist is an example of this. Number 4, lack of empathy. Entitled narcissists often struggle with empathy. Again, they are empathy impaired. They do not have any empathy to give to you. And this is because they may not fully recognize or understand the needs and feelings of others. So they do not have the ability to put themselves in the other's shoes. Again, they are empathy impaired. What they have access to is between shame and pride. And what you'll find between shame and pride is apathy. And this is why they are often cold, callous, and reptilian-like individuals. This lack of empathy allows them to prioritize their desires over the well-being of others. If we take this back to the story of Narcissus in Greek mythology, where narcissistic personality disorder is based off of, the story of Narcissus is a story of self-absorption. Narcissus was obsessed with his reflection in the pond, in the river, in the pool. And in the story of Narcissus, you will see where he was there pining over his reflection in the pool until he withered away by the riverside, or in some stories they will tell you that he fell into the pond and drowned. The story of Narcissus was a tale that was explaining the dangers of self-absorption, of being obsessed with your reflection, of being obsessed with a mask. And this is where you see the lack of empathy for others, because what pathological narcissists care about is their image. It is about getting their needs met. It is about getting their narcissistic supply. So understand that in narc land, narcissists only care about themselves and their self-image. They do not have any empathy to give to you. It's kind of like asking someone for $50. If they don't have $50 to give to you, they cannot give it to you.
Give me $50.
I ain't got it.
You can't afford to give me $50.
Pathological narcissists do not have empathy to give. What they have to give is apathy. And that is what you're going to get if you are entangled with these individuals. Number 5 is the intolerance of criticism. Entitled narcissists are highly sensitive to criticism. They may react defensively or aggressively when their actions or behaviors are questioned, as they believe they are above reproach. So it is important to understand that we all operate at varying levels of consciousness. So as spiritual beings having a physical experience, we have access to tools or faculties, namely our mind power, our willpower, and our emotions. So understand that when it comes to pathological narcissists, they have a belief system in their mind where they believe that they are above reproach. They are filled with pride. They are dysfunctional at their core, so they believe that there is nothing wrong with their behavior. So understand that you're dealing with someone that does not have the ability to self-reflect. They do not have a true self. You need a true self to self-reflect. They abandon the true self for a false self. The ego does not have the ability to self-reflect. The ego projects, because that is what the ego does. So when you say something that goes against their belief system, then you will see where they may react defensively or aggressively. And this is what you may commonly call a narcissistic injury. So a narcissistic injury is when a pathological narcissist perceives a threat, whether real or imagined, that goes against the grandiose false self, that goes against the ego, that goes against the mask, because they really do not want to take this mask off. They are holding on to this mask for dear life. They believe in their mind that this mask gives them strength. When they wear the mask, they feel superior and grandiose and above you. And again, this is the mindset of someone that is stuck in the third dimension, that is stuck at a lower ego development, that is stuck in victim abuser consciousness. So abusers believe that they are above reproach because this is how they think in their mind. So as empathetic people, as chosen ones, as light workers, as star seeds, etc., it is important that you learn how to not project your consciousness onto other individuals, especially a pathological narcissist, because you're not operating at the same level of consciousness. Again, You have access to the fourth dimension, the fifth dimension, and higher. Pathological narcissists are stuck in the third dimension. Every day they wake up, they're in shame, so they start off in the first dimension. But at best, they get to pride, dysfunctional pride, and again, pride cometh before the fall, and they fall right back down to shame. And that is the level of consciousness that they are at. We're talking about dregs at the bottom of the spiritual cup. It is a caveman type mentality. It is suffering consciousness. And because they're suffering, then eventually you'll see where they try to also make you suffer, because misery loves company. That is what you get from someone that is stuck at that low vibration. And finally, number 6, grandiosity. Entitlement often coexists with grandiosity in narcissists. They may have an inflated sense of self-importance, believing that they are unique and should only associate with high-status individuals or institutions, for example. This is their pathological entitlement and their pathological grandiosity. And a bulk of this grandiosity and entitlement, again, comes from their dysfunctional pride. They believe in their mind that they are better than you without merit. This is dysfunctional pride. It is dysregulated pride. It is disordered pride. And this is the level of consciousness that pathological narcissists are stuck at, because we are talking about a type of psycho-spiritual arrested development where physically you could be dealing with someone and they are 40 years old at the physical level, but behind the veil you will see where at their core, at a spiritual level, at a mind level, at an emotional awareness level, at the level of willpower, they stopped growing somewhere between the ages of about 5 and 12 years old. So if we were to give this an average, then let's say they behave like a maladaptive third grader, so a maladaptive 7 or 8 year old. This is because they have psycho-spiritual arrested development. So this would be similar to unripened fruits. And unripened fruits come from plants where that plant did not get enough water, sunlight, or nutrients that it needed to grow to develop a fully ripened fruit. So that plant developed a fruit, but it developed unripened. It developed and it is missing some elements. And unripened fruits are just like those horrible grainy apples that you find in the supermarket that tastes like cardboard. And when you bite into that apple, Mother Nature herself will tell you that you probably shouldn't be eating this because this tastes off. Something is missing. Something is wrong with this apple. Now, you cannot put unripened fruits back on the tree because they're already fully grown. They developed to their fullest state, but they developed unripened because, again, they're missing elements. They missed elements in their growth phase that they needed to develop a fully ripened fruit. And the same technically applies to pathological narcissists. You're dealing with adults, but again, they're missing elements. And because they're missing these elements, then they are going to behave in an erratic and chaotic type of manner. And again, these individuals are already adults. This type of arrested development is best summarized in healer, author, and shaman's Malidoma Patrice Somme's great quote, where he states that if you keep a person in an adolescent state, then they will act militaristically. So an adolescent state means an underdeveloped state, an unripened state, an arrested development type of state. They will act militaristically, so they're often going to be very volatile and violent people. And this is what you get from someone that is stuck in their lower ego, that is stuck at the bottom of the Hawkins scale, that is stuck in the first, second, and third dimension, that is stuck in victim abuser consciousness. They do not have access to courage. So understand that narcissists operate in a state of cowardice, and you'll see where cowards will throw you under the bus if things hit the fan. Why? Because they are cowards. They only have access to cowardice at an emotional level, at a vibrational level. Narcissists do not have access to empathy. Empathy is related to love and kindness, and that will be up there in the 500s on the Hawkins scale. Pathological narcissism as an energy spectrum exists below the line of 200. Again, they cannot get to the level of courage. They did not develop to the fourth dimension or higher. So someone that does not have empathy to give to you will give you apathy, because that is what they have to give. So it is important that you adjust yourselves when you are dealing with pathological narcissists, because people can only give you what they have. If you squeeze an orange, you get orange juice. If you squeeze a grape, you will get grape juice. And if you squeeze a pathological narcissist, what you're going to get is various types of neglect and abuse, because that is what they have to give. So pathological narcissists and their pathological entitlement. The entitlement is part of a broader spectrum of their narcissistic traits. So narcissists may exhibit entitlement in varying degrees. So know that it is important that you are able to recognize and understand these signs, because this is crucial if you are dealing with narcissistic individuals, as it helps you to establish boundaries and it helps you to navigate these challenging interactions. Again, someone that is stuck in a victim abuser consciousness can only have victim abuser type of relationship. So if the narcissist is the abuser, then in this scenario, then you will be the victim. They want to be master, so you must be slave. They want to be king, so you must be peasant. And this is how they think at that level of consciousness. So again, it is important that you do not project your consciousness onto a pathological narcissist, because they do not think like you. And that really is the message for today, kind folks. If you need help, if you need one-on-one support, go ahead and book a one-on-one session. I've been where you are, lost, confused, and needing guidance. So understand that you can heal from narcissistic abuse, folks, but you need the accurate information and you need to take action on this information. And that is how you heal. That is how you revitalize your energy. That is how you pour your love and kindness and compassion back into yourself and grow. So know that you can heal from narcissistic abuse, but you may have blind spots that someone else can come in and help to identify, so that you're able to patch those vulnerabilities. And when you do that, then you will see where it's going to be so much easier for you to attract healthy and wholesome people and experiences into your life, because you'll hear me say it often on this channel. Peace is on the other side of abuse. Peace is up there in the 500s, right? Love is up there in the 500s. You're not going to get into a loving, kind, fulfilling relationship with someone that is stuck in the third dimension, because they simply do not have love and kindness and compassion to give. So as you heal, the people that you should be communing with, the people that you should be in communion with, have to be in the fourth dimension or higher. They must have access to courage. They must have access to neutrality. They must have access to acceptance. They must have access to love, and so on again. This is the fourth dimension or higher. People that have a high vibrating energy, because they are in tune with their higher awareness. They're not stuck in the third dimension like pathological narcissists. All right, kind people, that is the message for today. Thank you all for your continued support. Ensure that you are subscribed for more empowering content. If you have any questions or feedback, go ahead and leave that in the comment section. Sheikah is the name. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you in the next video.